Welcome to Politics Done Right. I am your host, Egberto Willies. This is a progressive program that will take the mystery out of politics. This is the program that will encourage you to make sure government becomes we the people. Whether you are liberal, progressive, conservative, or otherwise, you get to air your point of view. We are an independent media outlet that, unlike mainstream media beholden to corporations, we only owe allegiance to you. Remember, you can also send me a tweet at EGBERTOWILLIES. That is at Egberto Willies. Let us engage. It is Politics Done Right. Well, folks, welcome to one more edition of Politics Done Right. I'm Egberto Willies, your host. Thank you so kind for being a part of the show. We are going to have a great show for you as usual today. No specific videos that I have yet today, but I have some stories that I want to cover. Anyway, how are my peeps doing? Welcome aboard. Welcome aboard. Yvette Avery Herod from Atlanta, Georgia. ¿Cómo estás? La Preciosa. And we also have Michael Rudnin from Brooklyn, New York. Welcome, Michael Rudnin from Brooklyn, New York. In the house is Bridge MCP, Binghamton, New York, and Paul Fleming from Powder Springs, Atlanta. We have Lee Grant from Montgomery County, Eric Hayes from Atascocita, Kingwood. And I think that's all that's registered so far. Where are the rest of my peeps? Where are my peeps? Or did my emails not go out? Let me check to see if those were queued already. Para ver, I don't see, interesting. I don't see them queued quite yet. Hey, John Cotter is in the house. How you doing, John? Great to see you, my brother. Let's see. It doesn't seem like the emails went out as yet, but that's okay. That's okay. E2247 from all over is in the house as well. We're going to have a great show. Bear with me as I check all these little ins and outs to determine if I have everything set up correctly. You know how that goes. It's a one-person operation, guys. It's a one-person operation. So one hand has to do one thing while the other hand is doing something else until we get to the right kind of place. This is how it just gotta have to be. Anyway, let me go ahead and check to make sure that all those things are in the house appropriately. I'm coming to you guys. PDRI. Let's see. That looks like it's set up correctly. So that should be queued off pretty soon. Anyway, folks, we're going to have a great show for you today. Title of the show today is Global 1% Captured what is it again? 1% captured 42 trillion in the decade. Drifter JD Vance cons America and disparages. John Carter said, I received the email, doing well in Kingwood, paddling around in my canoe. I know the rain, right, Carter? That rain, I tell you, it seems like I think they said like Houston is ahead by 15 inches of rain so far. That was yesterday's. It's been raining all night, so who knows? Maybe we're at 16 inches now. Anyway, let me go ahead and start with Brother Rudnin. He says President Biden just gave an 11-minute speech that sums up his legacy. Embrace democracy, reject authoritarianism. Snippet from the transcript says, I revere this office, but I love my country more. It's been the honor of my life to serve as your president, but in the defense of democracy, which is at stake, I think it's more important than any title. I draw strength and find joy in working for the American people, but this sacred task of perfecting our union is not about me, it's about you, your families, your futures. It's about we the people, and we can never forget that. And I never have. It's made it clear that I believe America is at an inflection point on those rare moments in history when the decision we make now determine our fate of our nation, and that the world and the world for decades to come. America is going to have to choose between moving forward or backward, between hope and hate, between unity and division. We have to decide, do we still believe in honesty, decency, respect, freedom, justice, and democracy? In this moment, we can see those we disagree with not as enemies, but as fellow Americans. Can we do that? Does character in public life still matter? I believe you know the answer to those questions because I know you, the American people, and I know this. We are a great nation because we're a good people. When you elected me to this office, I promised to always level with you to tell you the truth. And the truth, the sacred cause of this country is larger than any one of us. Those of us who cherry that cause, cherish it so much. The cause of American democracy itself, we must unite to protect it. I think that was a beautiful speech. And I think, let me just say something, okay? And I'm very honest with all of you. I am very honest with all of you. When I saw, I stayed, when I listened and watched President Biden, the first thing I said is, man, thank you for all the great stuff you did. But the second thing I said is, my God, I do not believe you could have gone through a tough election again. And I tell you better, I looked at some old videos of Biden back when he ran the first election against Trump. And if I have to be honest with myself, and I don't know, you guys can tell me otherwise how you feel. But in looking at other videos, I also said the pandemic allowed Biden to run his election campaign in a manner for somebody that didn't have to be like super energetic and vibrant. And the pandemic did a lot of that for a lot of folks, both in school and otherwise. But when I saw him yesterday, I said to myself, he looks pretty old, and I don't think he could have taken the rigors that it would take for this campaign. And I tell you another thing that I've noticed. I've also noticed that Donald Trump himself, even though he is more vibrant, he doesn't hold up as well on stage anymore either. Age is an interesting thing. Age is a very interesting thing. All right, Bridge MCP says Colin Harris a DEI cause they can't say the N word, laughable. Sick. Egberto Willis for the screen. And if Bridge MCP asks me to put something on the screen, it goes onto the screen. And now I am obliged to read it. And it goes as follows. Republicans, she is not qualified. She was district attorney of a top 10 city, attorney general of the second largest justice department in the land, a U.S. senator from the largest state, and the sitting vice president of the United States. I would say that's a damn good resume, wouldn't you? Now for Trump, last time you elected a president, he was a game show host and a Twitter troll, so STFU. That is such a true statement. And the same thing goes for Vance. All Vance could do is talk about his former, life as a hillbilly, which he really wasn't. We'll talk a little bit about that a little bit later. But it's amazing. And let me tell you guys something, right? People of color for the foreseeable future are going to have to go through that DEI stuff, you know? And let me tell you, it's really hurtful. It is really, really hurtful. I mean, you don't wear it on your back, but you know that you have to so often prove yourself doubly, triply, quadruply, and more. Um, and this touches me personally, right? When I look at an accomplished person, like you don't have to like her, but don't like her for something that she done. You're right, Cotter. He bankrupted a lot of companies as well. Don't like her for not, for a lie. Don't like her because say you don't like her policies. But those of us who look like me or a shade lighter, a shade darker, every time we work at a professional job in corporate America or otherwise, that's one of the first things that's thought of, right? In fact, I'll tell you something that's negative on my part. When I just started working in corporate America, I hated affirmative action. And we would have our, when we get together as a group or whatever, all of us get together and we're drinking and eating barbecue and all that kind of stuff. I would get into discussion with a lot of the people that we were hanging out with. I remember getting in a big argument with a journalist that worked for ABC 13, black guy, and I was telling him about how much I hated affirmative action and all of that. And the reason I hated affirmative action is because I knew that for every engineering job I got, people thought I got that job for affirmative action reasons, because as a black guy, because as a Latino guy, hey, they killed two birds with one stone. We hired a Latino and we hired a black dude. So I checked two boxes. And I worked in my first two companies. I was the only black engineer in the building. NL McCullough and the other one I won't say for a particular reason. But then I remember the VP calling me into his office and he said, "Don't know why Pat loves you so much. That's a woman who hired me. Love her. But I know why she hired me. She was in good old boy network as well. And she knew what she had to go through as a woman petroleum engineer. I was a mechanical engineer, but going into software development. And he sat me down in his office and he said, I don't know why Pat likes you. That was the name of my boss. Don't know why Pat likes you. You've got 6 months. And if it doesn't work out, I don't want to hear a damn thing about affirmative action. And then he escorted me out of his office. Suffice it to say, the project that she assigned me first was a 6-month project. And I got through that project in 2 months. Done quickly, everything complete. The reason I'm telling that story is, everybody always talk about, when you get a golfer like Tiger Woods, or you get a tennis player like the Williams sisters, or you get these people of color excelling in athletics or excelling in other places, and people like, oh my God, they're coming in and they're taking over. What many don't tell you is the reason that these people are doing so well is because of the prejudice. They go into to every job that they go into knowing that excellence would not be enough. You have to be ahead and far and beyond to really make it. And for those who are saying, oh, you play the race card or whatever, you go live it. You go accidentally listen to what you hear people saying behind your back, and you go into a room and everybody shut up. So I know what Barack Obama had to go through. I know what Hillary Clinton had to go through as a woman. I know what Kamala is going through as a woman, as a South Indian and Southeast Indian, and as a black woman. And until we get over that, these things are going to persist. But Republicans are holding on to it tight. DEI, DEI. They're betting, and to all my MAGA listeners in the chat right now, they are betting that you are racist. They're looking at their own constituents, and they're telling the world that their constituents are racist. The mere fact that they call her a DEI hire, right? Let me give you another secret. Rarely are they going to waste their money for DEI hire solely. Because you don't pay somebody a lot of money and don't expect something in return. And if you think paying an engineer or paying any one of these guys a whole bunch of money to fail makes any sense, then I got a big bridge in Brooklyn to sell you. This one touched a nerve because, again, like I said, I lived through this for 5 years. One of the reasons I only lasted 5 years in corporate America is I hated that feeling and I went and did it all on my own and created my own company, etc. Because I didn't want to have to do the continuous justification of I deserve to be here. I earned it. In my jobs, and even anybody can, the good thing about the world today is you can find out about anybody on the internet who has a LinkedIn or whatever, because everybody's out there, with their thing. You can see it. But I'm telling you, it is a shame what's going on. Thank you for bringing that up, Breach, but you went ahead also and brought up my memories. Eric Hayes says, are people paying attention? Even the Democrats no longer have a say in the elections. Their votes mean nothing, and the delegates appoint whomever they choose. Harris was not elected, Biden was. Now she is a presumptive candidate. Watch out, folks. Democracy is slowly eroding. Better wake up before it's too late. All right. Eric Hayes heard my answer to this. That's a silly statement. Eric Hayes heard my answer on KPFT already, but he doesn't want to listen to my answer. But because he placed it in the chat, I want to address it. First of all, Democrats voted for Biden, and they also voted for Biden's vice president that says if Biden cannot complete the task, the next person we want is that vice president that Biden chose. Now, in as much as that was the case, when Biden decided not to run, you can say he was forced out. I don't call it forced out. I call it sensibly suggest that he wouldn't make, he probably couldn't handle the campaign. He was finally convinced of that. And he said, I'm recommending my vice president, Kamala Harris. Now, there is a process, just like the Electoral College elected Donald Trump, even though most Americans did not want Donald Trump as president. But America, the Constitution, has rules. And the rules say you win the Electoral College. Winning the popular vote is not enough. And there is a scenario where you can win the popular vote and still lose the Electoral College. We abided by Trump losing the popular vote, losing the election, but winning the Electoral College. We abided by those rules. The same apply in parties. The American people pick delegates. When you go out there and vote for a candidate, you're voting for delegates, right? And Republicans like to say, we are a republic, a representative democracy. When you go out there and vote, you vote for delegates. Whenever you place a vote for Biden, you actually are voting for the X amount of delegates from that state. If Biden decides to quit, those delegates can do as they please, but they have already been elected by the people. Democracy. Now the people who want to take over for Biden has the ability to go ahead and call up each one of those delegates and say, I would like to have your vote. It's not the party doing that. It's the delegates that are saying, okay, Kamala, I will support you. And Kamala, as soon as Biden left, she went and secured the votes of delegates. There's nothing untoward about it. It is a democracy, and that's how it works. Okay? Now, if you want to find problems with other kinds of problems, I could tell you about problems within both the Democratic and Republican Party, that they encourage people not to jump into the primaries. That also, but if you want to talk about democracy, 67% of Democrats wanted Biden to step down. I am a Democrat. I uphold Democrats, and most Democrats did want Biden to step down, not for anything malicious, not because he didn't do a great job, because he did do a great job, but because they saw what all of us saw last night, a damn good president that I just don't know if the stress of daily campaigning with an 81-year-old's immune system, if that would not have opened him up for a lot of issues that could eventually shorten the brother's life. So, Eric, it's a silly statement, my brother. Love you anyway. But what you said makes, again, it is misleading, and it shows that you're parroting what came from Magaland, from Fox News. I hope that you're not just hearing me, but that you're listening and that you can think objectively. All right. Lee Grant says, I always thought Harris was slippery character, but this anointing is getting out of hand. Slippery? Wow. Slippery character. What makes her slippery? She's an intelligent woman. And not only is she intelligent, but the good thing for us as Democrats is that given that there are several hundred millions that was given to the Biden Harris ticket, if we took Harris off the ticket, that is money we could not use. Luckily, the stars aligned that we love Harris, and at the same time, by keeping Harris, we can use all of that money. Nothing slippery about it. That's just the way it is. All right. Opinion. JD Vance books Hillbilly Elegy was a con job. Don't let it slide. And that's what we're going to talk about today as well. Not from the LA Times, though. We're going to do it from the from Common Dreams, which probably reference LA Times as well. Anyway, Eric says, Iran's useful idiots. Netanyahu says Iran is funding anti-Israel protests in America, which is true. Iran is funding some anti-Israel protests, but most of the anti-Israel protests is not funded by Iran. It is organic. In fact, I know a lot of people in the movement, because the truth of the matter is Netanyahu and the IDF, they are in fact standing over an apartheid state, as well as committing genocide in Gaza and the West Bank. It's that simple. There's no ifs, buts, or whatever. People can try to twist and bend or whatever, and there's nothing anti-Semitic in telling a truth. And I clear this with my Jewish brothers and sisters. There's nothing anti-Semitic by telling the truth. All right, continuing. Let's see what else we got here. Bear with me, guys. Eric Hayes, democracy is not forcing out people. No, again, Biden didn't have to be, that Biden could have stayed in. Democracy is people using their money as they see fit. Biden could have stayed in. And people who donate monies to the party can say, I don't think my money would be well spent with Biden. I'm going to throw it to Congress, or I'm going to throw it elsewhere. There's no anti-democracy there at all. Just trying to, and Bridge, I just want you to know the reason I answer those from Eric is to put a stamp on this silly talking points that they have. Those talking points need to be answered forthrightly. You can't let those particular fallacies hang. Now we've just placed that into the ethos. All right, let's see what else we got here. Gene Daigle says, how about those GDP numbers coming in? 2.8% today. I mean, I thought they said our economy was in the gutter. 2.8%, and likely next month we're going to have a drop in interest rates. I feel sorry for these guys, because whereas Biden was not effective in making the case, again, we love Biden, but he cannot make the case as effectively as Harris, is why they don't like her. But when Harris starts to throw out the numbers and immediately throw the numbers out and say, and this is how I'm going to make those who these numbers have not trickled down to, this is how we will make sure that you are taken care of, Appalachia, that you are taken care of, Ghetto, that you are taking care of, Barrio. This is how we're going to do it. And you know who's not going to do it? JD Vance or El Senor Trump. And you know how we know? Because they were president. He was a president before, and he never did it. That's how we know. John Carter says, I thought that speech was one for history. Such a patriotic man. Whoop, whoop. I agree. Michael says, Egberto, thank you for reading that out. Yeah, it was a beautiful speech. It was marvelous. Let's see what else we got here. Bree says, I didn't like it. I was wondering why he did it. What, the speech? Are you talking about the speech, Bree? He had to do the speech. Now, I didn't like how he looked, but I liked what he had to say. I think it was great. Paul Fleming says President Biden's action over the past few days highlight Trump's unfitness for office. Biden put the needs and the future of his country ahead of him. Trump was willing to burn down our democracy to hold on to power and feed his fragile ego. You know who else was a hero? I don't know if you guys remember back in 2000 with Al Gore. Al Gore could have fought, and Al Gore could have really created a revolution when the Supreme Court anointed Bush for winning, even though he didn't win, right? It's amazing. It always seems like the wrong people get the anointment, but what can I say? All right, Paul Pim also says July 21st was the hottest day on earth. Project 2025 includes a section written by Trump appointee dedicated to ending the Department of Energy's focus on climate change and green subsidies, page 378. It also includes plans for another Trump appointee to get the EPA. It's amazing. These people don't I mean, it's amazing. Let's see. Cognitive abilities. His cognitive abilities are great. I should listen to him today after he got spoken to the Prime Minister of Israel. And I don't agree with some of his policies, but you know. All right, Lee Grant says Netanyahu reminded Congress of the Americans still being held by Hamas. Biden forgot them. I don't think so, not because you don't mention them aloud. In fact, sometimes not mentioning them aloud is a better bargaining chip because when you keep mentioning aloud, the other people think that that is a pretty you have to learn about negotiations. Steigen Bergen Greek says, how do you feel about Kamala being the candidate without a primary? We didn't vote for her. How can we claim to be the party of democracy with this process? I don't have a problem with Kamala, but the process is wrong. I think I just explained the process, Steigen. The process is there. Now you have the option of changing the process. And how do you change the process? You become a precinct chair within your party. Again, I repeat, like I am a precinct chair. I just 758. I'm a precinct chair in 758. I can vote on county rules. When we go into national, when we go ahead and start having a national candidate, these people that are precinct chairs, they can become national delegates by voting, democratic voting in your county, and those national delegates then go to on the national boards, right? And those national board delegates are sanctioned to create rules. And those rules are then voted upon. All of that, Steigen, was done. Do not fall for the right-wing crap. These are rules being followed. These are rules created democratically. So it's not a true statement to say, how can we claim this is a democracy? Parties create rules democratically, and then we execute the rules democratically. And I gave the example again of the president of when Trump became president. I hate the rules that created a Trump presidency because Trump has never ever won the majority of votes in America. Yet, we allowed him to be president because we followed the rules. And we didn't see Hillary Clinton trying to create a posse to go up onto Capitol Hill and storm it. She did what was right. All right. Let's see. What else do we know about this population? What population? All right. Anyhow, let's continue. Michael Rudin, Congress allowed a war criminal to speak in front of them. Netanyahu should be in front of the Hague. I agree. Uh, let's see what else we got here. I'm scrolling down, guys, so bear with me a second. Uh, Maywood said that I was listening to the morning show when I realized it wasn't live. Oh, my show this morning was live. My show this morning was live every morning. Okay, when Harris need to negotiate with Hamas to get hostages back, that's not how they, because we don't have a relationship with Hamas, that's not how it's done. It's usually done through Qatar or one of those other countries. It's a hypocrisy, but that's how it's done. Michael Radnes says affirmative action with its pros and cons, but the pro outweighs the con. To be clear, pro gives minority a chance to be hired in the first place. Con, racist will divide minorities for being a diversity hire. Here's the thing, you nail something out. Even though I hated to say, I don't want anybody to say you were a hire because of affirmative action. The honest truth is, I likely got I had the grades, I had the qualifications, but I likely got hired because of affirmative action, right? I qualified for the job, I knew the job, but had there not been affirmative action, the likelihood of them even looking at my resume would likely have not been realized. So, in as much as I hated it, you hit on something, um, Radnin. It actually gave me the opportunity to put my foot in the door. Otherwise, I probably would not have gotten. This was back in the 80s. So that was a good point that you made there. All right, let's see what else we got here. Let's see. Let's see. From Steigen, Berg Creek says, Michael Rudin, but when I voted, I was voting for Biden and president and Kamala as vice president. If Kamala was on the top of the ticket, I may have preferred to vote a different candidate. But when you voted the two of them, of course, you voted that if one couldn't do the job, the other one would. It's that simple, right? But again, like I said, after Biden released his delegates, those delegates had the right to pick whoever they wanted to pick. They didn't have to pick her, but they did. All right. Michael Rudin says Hamas wants a permanent ceasefire in order to release the hostages. Israel wants to exterminate Hamas without care about collateral damage. I'm sure Kamala Harris would do a better job than Joe Biden when it comes to Israel Palestine, as Biden was firmly on Israel's side the whole way through, despite the ethnic cleansing leading to genocide. Exactly. And you see how what Netanyahu tried to do? He tried to show that, oh, look, we have Ethiopian Jews. Hey, look, we have Muslims that are fighting the Muslims out of Israel. Of course, he used the exceptions. You go ask Ethiopians how they're treated in Israel, and you'll get another story. All right, you know how I know? Because while I spent some time with my daughter in DC, uh, we had Ethiopian drivers where we would talk about these issues. All right, AC Rodriguez says, yes, DEI is based on the racism and perpetrated on others historically and current. No, you don't just get hired because you are darker than the other person. Qualification is still to be there. It just tells people that they cannot hire everyone that's lacking melanin just because. That's a very straightforward way of saying it, my brother. Very straightforward way of saying it. Uh, let's see what else we got here. Mike C. says, AC Rodriguez, so you're saying we need to violate the Civil Rights Act now because some people in the past were racist? Some people in the past, I don't look at it as the past. Just look at our thread. Look at some of the things you guys say. You know, I chart. Look, some of the things you say, some of my right wingers say, I pretty much give a pass. But I've seen a whole lot of racism in this chat itself, coming from a lot of the folks on my right, mostly. And you probably don't even know that it's racist. Why? Well, we'll talk about that another time. Let's see what else we got here. Steigen says, but again, if Harris was on the ticket for president back when I voted, I may have chosen to vote for somebody else. That's fine. But that's not what happened, right? And again, the delegate has the right to choose if the person they voted for decided not to run. That's the job of the delegate. So there are rules again to follow. All right, those delegates were sent as Biden delegates. Sorry, the Democratic Party is being fascist. No, those delegates were, once Biden leaves, those delegates have the right to vote for whomever they want to vote for. What's not in the process is for us to go back and have a primary. You can imagine how disruptive that would be. That's not the process says if something happens, the delegates take over. And since these delegates were duly elected, what they've done is democratic. All right, Michael Radin says, Lee, if you know a way to kill the Hamas terrorists without hitting the Palestinian civilians who they're hiding amongst, I'd like to hear it. That's the challenge you need to understand. If you carelessly kill terrorists alongside the rest of the faithfuls, you become a terrorist. Absolutely so. I mean, anybody who makes that statement like, you have to kill the regular people to get to the terrorists. All right. Well, let's start killing Americans who thieves are hiding behind to make sure we get the thieves. It doesn't. You suddenly see that it doesn't make a lot of sense, right? War is just stupid. All right. What else have I got to read here? Wow, I've been reading a whole lot. You guys are really talkative today. Uh okay. I'm not gonna even read that one. Shakula Hairstylist says the hate makes life harder, so I troll them back. Yeah, hate is hard. Hate is hard. But you know what? If you are somebody who looks like me, hey Tamara, how are you doing? Great to see you here. Uh, Head DEI, don't trust voters. Okay, let's see what else we got here. Uh, let me back up. Look, continue. You guys are making the show actually more interesting by the comments that you're throwing in there. All right, Michael Rodin says, Eric, you are the one who pointed out to the polls showing that people forced Biden out of the race. And now you're complaining about the outcome. Two-faced much. Again, remember, the right doesn't have to have logic. They just have to have something to dispute to create chaos. That's the expectation. That's the only thing that they have because again, when you don't have policies, right? It's like I sent out a email earlier today, about an hour or so ago, where I talk about why Kamala is going to, what we have to do to make sure Kamala wins. And it was also sort of a note saying, hey guys, support independent media, including yours truly. And the reason I sent that out was a lot of people don't get it. A lot of people don't get that this is going to be an all out effort to win. And it's going to be everybody. It's going to be you. It's going to be me. It's going to be independent media. It's going to be paid media. It's going to be everything. All right, let me continue reading. Let's see what we got here. Shakula hairstylist say, time will fail you all. Yeah, I know, right? We all get old. Michael Rowan says, AC, let's see, typical of Mike C not to understand that anti-racist measures is meant specifically to counter the existing systemic racism that present without such an effort. But the hypocrisy of talking about, let's assume this. For those of you who says, well, I wasn't racist or think you're not racist, and you say something like, well, it's these other people that were racist and they did that. Why should I have to pay for what they did? Again, I could come back and say, could you be racist for not understanding what really occurred? Let's give an example. Go look at the amount that your family tree is worth, the economics that you're worth, that allowed you to go to school, that allowed you to have things that your black neighbor couldn't have because they were in a red lined area. You may not have directly been a racist. You may have not directly affect people with a different hue, but you have benefited royally from the racism that occurred from the inception of this country. And the math is simple. We have a pie. If there was a time that and it's a growing pie, growing on a percentage. If there was a time that you could never partake of that pie while I could never partake of that pie while you could. And then after 200 years, I'm suddenly start from scratch partaking of that pie. You have automatically in the aggregate gotten a head start. That's a benefit your entire family line would live with forever. And you can say, well, let me tell you how we could eliminate that. And this is what I'm going to tell you, right? If we got rid of inheritance, if we got rid of all those things where a person born today, irrespective of who their parents are, etc., got to access the same schools, got to access the same foods and all of that. If we could establish that, then we could say forget about all the other stuff. But that's not how it works. The truth of the matter is this country was built on the backs of many people of color, not only black, but also Chinese, but also indigenous. They were the ones who didn't have the option to get land when we were expanding out west to get their several hundred acres. Texas is a huge state. You go out there and see what these magnates, these guys that own a lot of land, they got that land. They stole it from the Indians or the indigenous folks, and then they built it, and the oil on the land, they profited from that. But the people of color never had the opportunity to do that. So that's generational wealth being created. So when you, my dear brother CSAC, lie to yourself to say, well, I am not racist. I didn't hurt any of my black and brown brothers and sisters. You didn't have to. Systemic racism did it for you. When many have been denied the access to universities that others have, systemic racism did it for you. And that's why when you hear Brother Rudnan talk about systemic racism, something that isn't individual, something that is intrinsic to the system itself. But people choose to deny that. And I'm going to say it bluntly. If you choose to deny it, if you deny it out of ignorance, you're not a racist. You're just ignorant. And ignorant not in a disrespectful manner. Ignorant in that you simply don't know. But if it is explained to you like I just did, mathematically, numerically, and you still think there isn't systemic racism that caused that, then in effect you're a racist. Will I still work with you and deal with you, hug you, love you, talk to you? Of course I will. Because it's a disease. It is a mental illness. And sometimes we can break it and sometimes we can't. Right? So that's where we're at, brother. That's where we're at. All right. John Carter says, Mike C has no proof about Act Blue, just spreading more Fox News BS. Yeah, I mean, they do it all the time. That's all they have, man. Well, and the reason why, Carter, look, the Democratic win in November, I've been talking about a landslide for a long time because I foresaw that people are going to wake up. And it's coming. The landslide is coming. Democrats are scared to say it, but they see it. When you see the following: black women for Kamala, white women for Kamala, Latinas for Kamala, South Asian women for Kamala. Building not individuals, but building up agents to go out there and fight. There's nobody that's willing to do that for Donald Trump because they don't believe in what Donald Trump represents. All Donald Trump represents is hate and grievances. He doesn't have a message to say, this is how I'm going to make your life better. Kamala does. Brother Biden does. All right. Michael Ryan says, what Netanyahu didn't say, Netanyahu didn't mention how the world's leading agencies, Oxfam, Doctors Without Borders, Save the Children, UNICEF, all reject his rosy image of aid situation in Gaza and all accuse Israel of blocking aid into Gaza. He didn't mention that in April, Oxfam reports that people in northern Gaza had been forced to survive on an average of 245 calories a day, less than a can of fava beans since January, or that the organization also found that the total food deliveries allowed into Gaza for the entire 2.2 million populations since last October amounted to an average of 41% of the daily calories needed per person. He didn't mention how some aid trucks that were destined for Gaza had been blocked by right-wing Israeli protesters. Those protesters are on tape, throwing food packages onto the road and ripping bags of grain open. He didn't mention how many aid trucks do pass into Gaza, yes, but then get fired upon by Israeli forces. He didn't mention the Israel airstrikes on convoy of World Kitchen, in which 7 food aid workers were targeted systematically car by car, according to celebrity chef founder. He didn't mention the 4 massacres in which there were. And again, all of that is correct, right? It's all correct. Netanyahu is Trump on steroids. And you know why I put him on steroids? Because he has bombed and killed at least 40,000 people. Trump killed several hundred thousand, but it was out of his neglect and not him dropping bombs or anything like that, right? All right. Melanie Keelan from Barcelona, Spain. How are you doing, beautiful? Great to have you here. Bridge MCP says Egberto Willis, at least 3,334 pledged delegates have been now endorsed Vice President Harris, according to NBC News. She only needed 1,974, I believe. So she's way ahead on that. That is great. Shakula hairstylist, how are you doing, beautiful? Michael Ren says Egberto sucks that it required affirmative action, got your foot in the door, but such a systemic racism you had to deal with, and it was your skills that kept the job. It's amazing, and you know, my story is a story of millions, Michael. The story of millions. There's nothing special about what I went through, but I did cover it. That and a lot of other stories that I hope in my book, Tribulations of an Afro-Latino Caribbean Man. I cover a lot of stories in here about what it is like, what racism and systemic racism looks like. I talk about my trip to China. I talk about being in Vegas when in conventions. I talk about the technology that I invented being used at companies. I talk about contracts that I had signed until that were written and ready to be signed until the people saw who I was. Remember the days of the internet, you didn't need to show your face and nobody knew what I looked like then. So, I mean, I told all these stories in the book. It's a good book. You should go to politicsandright.com/books and get it. Tribulations of an Afro-Latino Caribbean Man. I tell all these stories with the expectation, and I wrote it for 2 audiences. One, for my white audience, which will actually, for things that they can't immediately see and feel that they could. And the second audience, of course, was black folks who are not black, people of color, actually, who would open the book and say, yep, I remember that. Oh, yep, so I remember that. Oh, that's what that was. So I wrote it such that both audiences would understand it. So go pick up your copy at politicsandright.com/books. Tribulations of an Afro-Latino Caribbean Man. I guarantee you're going to like the book, and it's an easy read. All right, let's see what else we got here. Bruce Pollard said, howdy. I'm just seeing Bruce. Come on, man. Let's see what else we got. Egberto, much of what you say is racist and sexist. Really? Wow. I would like you to itemize the sexist thing that I said. That concerns me more than the racist thing. But itemize the sexist thing that I said because I want to make sure that there is no sexism at all in what I say, or racism, but I want to be sure. All right, Bridge has something else for the screen. All right, Breach, here it goes. And it goes like this. Oops, that didn't make it to the screen. Here we go. Did it make it to the screen? No. All right, let me get out of there and try it once more. That's not it. There it is. All right. Donald Trump, lying Kamala Harris destroys everything she touches. She's not the one with 7 corporate bankruptcies, a failed airline, a failed magazine, a failed scam university for which he had to pay a fine, 3 failed casinos, for which he didn't pay the people who worked on construction on the casino, 3 failed casinos, a failed pandemic response for which he caused the deaths of hundreds of thousands of people, the worst jobs record of any U.S. president. Again, no other president has ever left the job with that amount of jobs lost. 2 impeachments, never happened, and 34 criminal convictions, but that's okay. And I always say the people who believe that they can look in their daughter's eyes and say, I am voting for that guy who grabs on women crutches and have raped many. But it's okay to make him the president of the United States. Man, I tell you, if you believe that is okay, hey, that's okay. All right, I got to go down real quickly now. I am listening. Shakula Hairstylist says, Egberto, yeah, we're talking over each other the whole time. We have to talk with each other, to each other. All right, let's see what else we got here. I'm scrolling down quickly because we're coming close to the end of the time. I can't believe I spent all the time answering chat or talking about what you guys write in the chat. What other program do you have that ability to be the program? Like I said, you all always come first. You are the program. All right. If you vote for known racists, then that makes you racist because you agree with their policy. I am not going to take it that far, Paul. I know where you're coming from, but I'm not going to take it completely that far because there are people who would vote for him because it's financially good for them, and they'll say, "So he's racist. Let somebody else take care of that." So I won't completely put that on that. A vote for Trump means you're racist. I do say a vote for Trump is a moral ineptitude, and the reason why is again, you got to tell your daughter that you don't mind putting somebody like that into office, right? All right, let's see. I'm scrolling down, scrolling down, scrolling down. Giving medicine to the dead, but others will hear, I know. Yep, yep, yep. Bridge, you answer your question. I know, babe. I know, I know, I know, I know. All right, let's see. The current governmental system gives preference to Black and Hispanic women in both schools and governmental hiring. That is the most silly thing one could say. When you go into a government office and you take a look at the people in power in these offices, that is the most asinine thing one could say, Mike. I love you, but it's an asinine thing to say. If you go into the cities, you're going to see a lot of black folks because a lot of black folks work in the city. But if you go into Appalachia like I did, right, and you go into all the governmental offices, guess who's there? White people. And let's go a bit further, Mr. CSAC. Guess who are the people that get the most welfare in all these programs? White people. Yes, I know the percentage is higher for minorities than it is for white people, but that's historical for historical reason. But in the aggregate numbers, a whole lot more white people get assistance from the federal government than anyone else. Please, sir, don't let your racist upbringing cloud your reality because it doesn't hurt the folks you're racist against. It hurts you. All right, it hurts you. All right. Paul Fleming says, "May I agree with it day in day out because they vote for the same thing without doing any research, despite what others may say." Yep, that's one thing. They don't do any research. All right, let's see what else I got here. What else I got from other people? John Carter says, wrong again, Mike. Act Blue was fined $3,300, not $44,000. Let's see what else we have here that I need to read. An NBC review of Kamala Harris' tenure as San Francisco District Attorney and California Attorney General shows that she embraced both liberal reforms and hardline policies. Thank you very much for that one. John Carter says Trump is winning in felony convictions. Yes, he is. What else have we got here? What else have we got here? Uh, see, I'm looking, I'm scrolling. Some of the things don't really need an answer. Welfare was used by Democrats to destroy the black family to force out fathers. Okay. You say there's a partial truth. Democrats weren't trying to destroy the black family, but the way the laws were written could hamper not black families, but families in general. And that's why the same problems you see with black families in the ghettos are the same problems you see with white families in Appalachia. It's the way the law was written. All right? Madre mía, carajo pinga, puta, la gente no sabe cómo pensar. Melissa Bowie, how you doing, preciosa? They are banning all kinds of programs that were set to help communities. Leaders are about to turn on the bases, both T and H. Cocaine in the water, sharks are high as the sky. Let me tell you something, Melissa. We will make sure to make things right. Anyway, it's that time. I'm going to go over by a minute or so because I need to ask for your support. Please remember to support Politics Done Right. You can find all the different ways to support Politics Done Right by going to politicsdoneright.com/support. Politicsdoneright.com/support. But what I'm asking, I really need our newsletter to take off. I need 1,000+ subscribers. I'm only 10% there. So if you can become or encourage others to become paid subscribers of Politics Done Right, please do so by telling them to go to politicsdoneright.com/newsletter. politicsdoneright.com/newsletter. That will, if we can get to about 1,500, it'll give a fairly reliable source of income that we can do all the other things that we need to do. I mean, that is the goal here. That is the goal here. The newsletter can really help us get what needs to be done. Anyway, I got to get out of here. My name is Egberto Willies. Oh, beforehand, don't forget, go get the book, Tribulations of an Afro-Latino Caribbean Man. You'll like it. I guarantee you will like it. Pick it up at Amazon. Go to politicsdoneright.com/books. If you want an autographed copy, of course, I'll do that too. You can just go to my store and pick it up. But anyway, I got to get out of here. My name is Egberto Willies. This is Politics Done Right. And you guys know how I end this baby. I am what? Out. Welcome to Politics Done Right. I am your host, Egberto Willies. This is a progressive program that will take the mystery out of politics. This is the program that will encourage you to make sure government becomes we the people. Whether you are liberal, progressive, conservative, or otherwise, you get to air your point of view. We are an independent media outlet that, unlike mainstream media beholden to corporations, we only owe allegiance to you. Remember, you can also send me a tweet at EGBERTOWILLIES. That is at Egberto Willies. Let us engage. It is Politics Done Right.